When you think of Pastor John, what do you think of? I don't give a moment to answer the question. Actually, I want you to answer the question in your mind. I don't want Pastor John to be so proud of him. Wow, I'm so good. How about Pastor Song? Me. When you think of me, what do you think of? If only it is good, you may say out loud, but if not, be silent. That's okay. You don't have to say anything about that. Or just one more question. When you think of Apostle Peter, what do you think of him? What comes to your mind? I hope you have this image of Jesus' follower who was so passionate, who was so committed. And he was not afraid of dying for Jesus. At least that's what he said. He was going to do it. And one example would be, the day before he was crucified. Jesus was crucified. He was with, disciples when people came to, seize him. Guess what he did? He had a sword in his hand, wherever it was. He wanted to actually protect Jesus. Remember the instant, what he did? I'm reading from John 18:11. This is what, when he did that, Jesus told Peter. Jesus told Peter, "Put your sword away. I must drink from the cup that the Father has given me." I really believe he did Peter, whatever he was doing, out of his commitment and love for Jesus. Then, if you were Jesus, you saw one of the disciples, he did what he did, and what would you tell him? What could I have told you to Peter, who was standing up in a way for Jesus? Something like, "Peter, I see your heart, and I really thank you for standing up for me, even though it means really nothing. There's a whole crowd, the soldiers, the servants of the high priest, who came with a torch, who came with a spear, who came with a knife. They're only Jesus and 12 of them. There's nothing, it's not going to change anything. But at least, if I were Jesus, he saw the heart of Peter. "Peter, I really thank you for doing this for me." Is that what he said? No, he said, "Don't do it. Put it away. This cup, I have to drink. Put your sword away." That's what he said. In other words, he was saying, Peter and all the people who were there, including disciples, this cup, this death, I got to drink from this. This is the plan of God. I should be taken away by these people, and I should be crucified. And that's what he meant. But unlike Peter, there was another man in Old Testament who could have used his sword for himself and the rest of his people, but he didn't. So, the text I read, we responsibly read, it talks about what happened after what David did to Saul. It's like David's speech to the whole crowd, actually to Saul, who was after him to kill him. And he was yelling at Saul, "Saul, King Saul, hear me, what I have to say." And this is the whole, so you can say it's a speech delivered by King David, or king to be, king in line after Saul. And David was telling what he was telling the king Saul. Let me give you just a little bit background of what is going on here. A few thousand years ago, 4,000 or so, there was not 4,000, it can't be. Some thousand years ago, a few thousand years ago. There were two kings in the kingdom of Israel. One king is King Saul, we all know that. And the other one is King David, or second king of the United Kingdom of Israel. Saul was the first king, David would be a second king. And because they were kings, one is already king and the other one will be king soon, there were a lot of people around him To be more precise, there were about 3,000 men who were chosen, who were trained to follow Saul to go after David. And then if you read in 1 Samuel, the chapters prior to the one that we just read, there were about 600 people who were following David. And they were together. Now, the scene is this. What is happening is King Saul heard. Someone told me that, by the way, did you know David is in the wilderness called En-Gedi? If you go there, you can get this guy. You can kill David. So now Saul, with 3,000 chosen men after David, pursuing him in the wilderness to do what? To kill him, to get rid of him, to kill him. Saul wants to kill David. There's no question about that. As a matter of fact, this is what is happening. It's very interesting. So the followers of Saul were all urging Saul, this is your great chance, a great moment, and go to the wilderness and let's get him and get rid of him. At the same time, David's men, how many were there? About 600, doing the same thing. You got to kill him too. After all, it's a war between King Saul and David. So when Saul heard that David and his men were in this wilderness, he and Saul and his men were after David and his men. Now, interestingly, if you read chapter 24, 1 Samuel, this is what was happening. So he got there okay. When he got to the wilderness, this is what Saul had to do. 1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 3. Let me read that. What is going on here? And he came to the sheepfolds by the way. It's on the way. It's in the wilderness. Sheepfold is a name of a place. Well, there was a cave. Saul went in to relieve himself. And now David and his men were sitting in the innermost parts of the cave. What that means is, when it says relieve, guess what it is? He has to relieve himself. He's got to do number 2, nature's call. That's what it is. So you cannot take someone to your number 2. So he just went into the cave to relieve himself to the number 2. Without knowing, in the same cave, the innermost parts of the cave, guess who were there? There was David and his men to hide from, to get away from Saul. But right before their eyes, there comes King Saul to do number 2 all by himself. This is a great moment. The man who wants to kill David is right there. So, David's men, the people, the 600 people who are following David were urging him, King David, this is the moment. Seize the moment. You go and get rid of it. 1 Samuel 24:4. This is what they said. And the man of David said to him, here is the day of which the Lord said to you, behold, I will give your enemy into your hand, and you shall do to him as it shall seem good to you. In moments like that, what will be the thing that David should do? What seems good to him? After all, Saul is there to kill him. They're in a war, in a battle. So, sensible thing to do. The thing he can do is, all right, I'm going to get rid of him. I think with that in mind, he actually arose and went to Saul. Saul didn't know anything until, we just read the text. We read this right just a few moments ago. He knew nothing about it. Only after he came out of the cave, he was on his way to look for who? David again. And then David could have just let him go as if nothing happened. And he's yelling in the back of Saul, King Saul, listen to me. I got something to tell you. I think it was only natural and the best option. I think people are saying, at least the people who were with David, wow, this is a great moment. He's alone, and Saul wants to kill you, and just in a way like what Peter did. He pulled out his knife, his sword, and he cut one of the servants, the ears. Just like that. You just close your eyes and pull out your knife, pull out your sword, and then one strike, it'll be over. For some reason, we know why though. He did it. He just cut off one small part of Saul's robe, and he let him go. And this is what said. This is the background of what David is saying to Saul and his men. In life, that we hear people's comments and people's a lot of times advice. You ask for advice, and they will tell you what you think of whatever that is. But at the end of the whole road, the making decision is totally it's up to you. What I'm saying is, David, his people, because they were fugitives. Saul was after them. They could not go back to their own homes. They were, pursued by this army. So, striking Saul, if David did it, it'll bring to an end. Everything will be it will come to an end. But he didn't do it. Why? Because he was not listening to people's words. He says, Saul is anointed one. I cannot kill Saul. And that's the background. And then, like I said, Saul did what he had to do. He was out of the cave as if nothing happened. He is not aware of still what David did to him. And he's on his way, again, to go after David. And then he calls out. David calls out. He cries out to Saul, King Saul, wait a minute. I got to tell you something. I could have titled the message, God of David, King David believed. And what kind of God, did he have? When you read Old Testament, we read the phrases like, God of who? God of Abraham. God of Isaac. God of Jacob. God of David. And there's the God of Moses too, What kind of God did David really believe? But then I could have titled, God like David believed. However, I read a book recently, just not long ago. It's called The Tale of Three Kings. And I got so blessed by the book. It's a small, short book, very devotional book. It talks about, the relationship between, Saul and David. And then another relationship is David and his son, Absalom. And, so that's, so I use that, the title of the book, Tale of, not three, but Tale of Two Kings, about King David and King Saul. So, what kind of God did David believe? First of all, David really believed, King David, God is the one who will solve the problem, or this particular one that he was in. What problem was it? The fact that there were two kings at the same time. Whose problem is that? It's not King David's, it's not David's problem. God is the one who raised two kings at the same time. God is the one who told Samuel to go anoint Saul as the first king. And then he said again to Samuel, go find another one. So Samuel went to David's house and he found David and he anointed David. So whose problem is this? It's not David's problem. It's God's problem. God is the one who allowed that to happen in their lives. Now, so both of them were chosen by God, anointed by God, and they became kings. Now, Saul is the first one. Only in due time, David will be the second king. But David recognized what the problem was. David recognized Saul is the one, just like he was anointed by God. Saul was also anointed by God. So this is what David says, first of all, to King Saul in today's scripture. I'm reading from verse 9 and 10 again. Now David said to Paul, Saul is on his way. So he's crying out to Saul, why do you listen to the words of man who say, behold, David seeks your harm. Behold, this day your eyes have seen how the Lord gave you today into my hand in the cave. And some told me to kill you, but I spared you. I said, I will not put out my hand against my Lord, for he is the Lord's anointed. Just like you are told by your people. Actually, the Saul's men were telling Saul all this time, David is out there to harm you. So you got to go first and kill him. Now, Saul listened to that. And he was listening to the man's advice, and he was after David. Whereas David was told the same thing. I mean, you think about this is a great moment. In the cave, there was no one but Saul, king himself, and 600 men. You want to pick a fight? This is a great fight. It's not a really great fight. You can just get rid of him, right? So he could have listened to the man's advice. Actually, it's a good thing. If King Saul is dead, and all the misery, the life that they are having as a fugitives will come to an end. They can go back home, be with wives and children. No more cave life, no more, fugitives life. So it's a good thing. And after all, King Saul is the one who wants to kill David. So he just could have done it. But he doesn't do it. It's interesting. If you read again the first portion of chapter 24, it's not only David not killing, himself killing, go after Saul to kill. He had to, in a way, really convince his men not to do it. I'm reading from verse 9. Verse 7 first, sorry. 24:7. This is what David did. Did I give you verse 9? I think his next one is verse 7. Yes, no? 1 Samuel chapter 24, verse 7. If not, I'll just read it. There's no verse 7. This is what he did. This is what is written here. So David persuaded his men with these words and did not permit them to attack Saul. So Saul rose up and left the cave and went on his way. I think, and I am guessing, I think this literally happened. When David was either reluctant, hesitant, and his man said, we'll do it. You just say yes, I will go kill Saul. But he had to persuade them, no. Don't put any harm onto Saul. Don't do it. He's the Lord's anointed. God will take care of it. You and I, you men, 600 men, we're not allowed to do it. Let's not do it. So he had to either plead with them, he had to command them, he had to tell them, hey guys, we cannot do this. God is the one who will take care of this problem. Is that the God that you and I believe in? And God will solve our life problems. We as Christians, as we live this life on this earth, there are so many challenges just because we are Christians. A lot of times, we ask ourselves, are we really putting our trust in Him who will eventually solve all these problems? At least for David, he had that conviction, he had that trust in Him. He let go of Saul. Another point that I want to make is David really believed everything that happened in his life, God is the one in charge of everything. I'm reading from verses 11 and 12. See, my father, even David called Saul my father. That respect. Of course, he was his best friend's father too. Jonathan was his best friend. And he really respected, even though he was evil in many behaviors. But, God's anointed, He will take care of him, the whole problem. So, see, my father, see the corner of your robe in my hand. He then just realized, wait a minute, that's the corner of my robe, my garment. How come he has it? For by the fact that I cut off the corner of your robe and did not kill you, you may know and see that there's no wrong or treason in my hands. I have not sinned against you, though you hunt my life to take it. May the Lord judge between me and you. May the Lord avenge me against you, but my hand shall not be against you. You know, I'm really sad. I don't know what to do. I mean, if I wanted, I could have killed you. But I will not judge that. All things that happened in my life, I'm not in charge of it. I'm not running it. God is in charge of it. I could have killed you. See this? See this and know that I have not sinned against you. I have no intention of killing you. Can't you see this? God is the one who is in control. He will take care of this. Now we have this tendency, you and I have the tendency. We have tendency to solve life's problems with my own hands, with my own ways, in my own timetable, according to my own time schedule. And God is saying, no, I'm in charge. David knew that. You know, even after this instant, he will still be running away from Saul for many more years. Nothing changes. Nothing really changes. You know, actually, in chapter 24, he cries, he regrets, and he will walk away from the whole wilderness, but soon after, he'll come back again to kill David. Nothing changes, in a way. As a matter of fact, nothing changes. However, you know, David, the God he believed in was, you know, God is in charge of everything that happens in my life, so he will, in his time, take care of this problem. Another thing that I see is, David really sees, God that David believes is God of justice. I'm reading it from verses 13 and 14 again. Let me read that. As the proverb of the ancient says, out of the wicked comes wickedness, but my hand shall not be against you. After whom has the king of Israel come out? After whom do you pursue? After dead dog? After flea? Now what it means is, when it comes to King Saul, David is it's like a nobody. It's like a dead dog. It's like a flea. So I will take care of this problem. I am the king, and who are you? The people actually like you more than they like me. So I'm going to come after. This cannot happen in my kingdom, and I'm going to kill you. Which is very unjust, you know that? Because, like we read, David has no intention of killing Saul, even standing up against him. But when it comes to Saul, he says, well, I got to take care of this problem. This cannot be done. This cannot be in my kingdom. And he's doing that. And David is saying, by the way, I will not do this against you. And I really believe God is the one who will take care of this. Actually, read the verse 15. I'm reading the last verse. This is what he said at the end of his speech. May the Lord therefore be judge, and give sentence between me and you, and see to it, and plead my cause, and deliver me from your hand. This God of justice, who knows everything, he will be the judge between you and me. He will deliver the sentence, and we'll find out in due time. Life has been so hard for him. You know, he didn't want to be the second king of, it was not his plan. He was happy with what he was doing, so to speak. It's only Samuel who came and who told David's father and David, God is the one who will have you be the second king of Israel. Like I said, nothing will change after this. Life as usual. David and his men will still run away from Saul as like fugitives. Life will be difficult. Still many more challenges. Where to stay, what to eat, and when will this come to an end? He has no idea. But God he believed in. He knew he would take care of the problem in due time, in his own ways, and everything will be solved. And that's what happens. You keep reading 1 Samuel and up to 2 Samuel, and you're going to see that. I want to challenge you this morning. You and I confess to know God and have this relationship with God, and I'm asking, what kind of God you and I really believe? The same God of David, how David, in his own walk with him, and how he believed, and what he believed, and how he lived out his life to please him. My prayer is that, we as Jesus followers, God is, KM, we always say this, and when I deliver a message, God is alive, and God is here. He still speaks to us, to our hearts. And what do you hear? The God that David believed in, and the same God that you and I believe, and walk this life on this earth. Trusting him fully all the way to the end. This life, God wanted David to have, and he listened, and that's how he lived. He will make a lot of mistakes on the way. We all know that. Yet, his heart, his mind, his understanding of God was what we see. An example from today's passage. And that's the life that our Lord Jesus walked on when he was here, all the way to the cross. You think about that. In the eyes of men, that life was, in a way, very stupid. He was not a criminal. But why would you die on a cross like that? That's how he lived, though. Not only that, he wanted his disciples, his followers, to live the same life. You take on your cross and come after me. And then he's asking us to live this very life too. Why? That's what God desires. Why? That delights God, if we live that kind of a life. As a matter of fact, I'm reading a verse from Matthew as my conclusion. This is what it says. Matthew 6:33. Let's all read that together, shall we? But seek first the kingdom of God and his righteousness, and all these things will be added to you. We seek God, his kingdom, his righteousness. In times we don't understand. It is very blurry, not clear, but we put our trust in him because he's the one who will add all these things, all that we need, to us. Again, not for our own sake, for his own sake, for God's delight. May we live this life that was shown in the life of David, life of Jesus, life of disciples, and in our own lives that will be encouraging and challenging as his people all the way to the end.